Time to sound off, Husker Nation. This is your Real Red Reaction Show on Lincoln's KFOR. Call the show now at 402-489-1240.
It is the Real Red Reaction Show here on KFOR FM 101.5, 1240 AM, also at KFORnow.com and on our social media apps through Facebook, Twitter, and on YouTube. It is Jeff Moats along with Elijah Harberg. We'll be joined by JP from Kicks 96.9 and our very own Chris Schmidt coming up later. Tim Bob Kitzmiller expected to stop by here as well as we react to the Nebraska-Northwestern game that just wrapped up moments ago. Wasn't exactly pretty, but of course, as the old saying goes, a win is a win. And Nebraska improves to 4-3 on the season. They're above 500 for the first time in what seems like ages, Elijah, as they win 17-9 over Northwestern. I think there's no doubt today the big story was the Husker defense just doing a terrific job of pursuing the quarterback, also making some big plays down the stretch. The other thing, too, there were a few times where the pass coverage got burned, granted, but Nebraska, even deep in their own territory, was able to find a way to put up big stops and not allow Northwestern to get into the end zone at all this afternoon. So they had to rely on their special teams to just simply get points on the scoreboard. I think that's just tremendous. I think it's a testament to what Tony White has been working on with this defense as the season has progressed. You know, you've played 7 games, and I think at times more than anything, the defense has looked pretty good, that they've shown signs of improvement. But there's no doubt that Tony White earned his keep today in terms of what he has done with this black shirt defense. I mean, with Ty Robinson, Hutmaker, all those guys getting into the backfield and providing a big stop on the quarterback Sullivan from Northwestern. I think it's just amazing how that defense was able to keep Nebraska's distance away from Northwestern, and just simply by doing that and limiting what Northwestern can do. Because at one point I saw on the screen that Northwestern had a few more yards of total offense versus Nebraska, but I think that simply has changed toward the end of the game. But again, tip of the cap to Coach White. If I'm Matt Rule, I'm ecstatic on how the defense played today.
Oh, yeah, it is a fantastic defensive performance. I think you also have to tip your cap to what Northwestern did defensively. A lot of people complaining about Marcus Satterfield's play calling, myself included, but you look at the final stats, 257 yards for Northwestern, 248 for Nebraska, about as even as can be there. Nebraska, 4 of 12 on third down. Northwestern, 3 of 15, so about as even as can be there. 12 total first downs for Northwestern, 14 for Nebraska. 85 yards through the air for Nebraska, 176 for Northwestern, but they kind of make up for it in the rushing. Nebraska with 163, Northwestern with 81, and these teams about as even as can be in time of possession. It's even just about everywhere. Northwestern even wins the turnover battle, but a real killer for Northwestern was the penalties, 8 for 75. As for Nebraska, it was a relatively mistake-free game in terms of penalties, only 3 penalties for 30 yards for the Cornhuskers. Maybe that's the difference. There's a couple times where Northwestern had 3rd and short, and they get backed up a couple of times. Makes it 3rd and less than manageable for that Northwestern offense, what they like to do. And basically, I mean, it's another gritty win for Nebraska. Similar to the Illinois game, it didn't feel comfortable ever. Nebraska's defense bails out the offense, gives them really a lot more room for error. But in a game that's as even as can be, it's the teams that get nitty, the teams that get gritty, and the teams that are more physical. And I do feel like Nebraska was the more physical team today that get it done. And don't look now, but Nebraska now sitting at let's do some quick math here. 2-2 in the conference. And you look across the rest of the Big Ten West, Iowa, they're currently down to Minnesota by a score of 12-10. So they might soon drop to 3-2. Wisconsin is down to Illinois by 3 with 3 minutes left. They might drop to 2-2. And just like that, Nebraska is right back in the thick of a Big Ten West race. And it's because their defense steps up, makes enough plays, and shuts down that Northwestern offense, holds them to just 9 points. And I mean, a win's a win. It's ugly. And I think that's just going to be the story of this Husker football season. It's going to be ugly. An ugly win is 10 times better than a pretty loss. And Nebraska gets the ugly win today. And now we have, an hour and 15 minutes before volleyball starts to continue our reaction and get your thoughts as well. As a reminder, if you'd like to call, the Real Red Reaction Show. Give us a call, 402-489-1240. Again, that's 402-489-1240. I'll get that phone number up on the screen as well. Or if you're listening from across the state, via our stream, you can give us a call at 1-800-825-5829. I messed that number up.
1-800-825-5865.
It's crazy, Mozi. I've been saying that number for years now, working with Schmitty. Whenever the time comes, the pressure comes, I lose it. I'm just like Northwestern in this final minute.
Well, I've been over at KFOR almost 18 years. So I've had to, pretty much memorize that phone number. But yeah, again, 489-1240 to call, or 800-825-5865 if you want to get on the Real Red Reaction Show. A lot of people chiming in on the chat here, Elijah, as we again react to Nebraska-Northwestern. 17-9 Nebraska gets the win. They can go up to 4-3 on the season. One thing that Danny Johnson points out here on the chat is a good win, but we can't let Satterfield get away with that play calling. I think that was pretty evident early on when the first play from scrimmage for Nebraska was an interception thrown by Heinrich Harberg, and you thought, oh, here we go. We're going to see the Nebraska offense begin to cave in a little bit. Now, there was 2 interceptions that he had thrown, one of which was picked flat out. The other one was off the fingertips of Thomas Fedoni on a pass play. But I think, in essence, Nebraska's offense, while not pretty today, managed to find ways to get the job done. And then Heinrich Harberg on the quarterback keeper into the end zone for the touchdown is something that a lot of people were expecting. They want the run game. I think people are hungry for that. But also, we need to understand that in this day and age of college football, it's almost like basketball. There's a lot of perimeter focus on the basketball court at all levels, as opposed to going inside a lot. But with football, it just seems like the passing game for about 20 to 25 years now has been such a fascinating type of offense. But with what they did today on the ground, it was highly remarkable. The passing game's still a little bit choppy. Thomas Fedoni did not have the best afternoon of his college career. But the bright spot, how about Malachi Coleman? His first career touchdown reception off that pass from Heinrich Harberg. It was, as I put it on social media, Kearney Catholic to Lincoln East for the touchdown pass. And that's the other thing, too. You had 2 in-state kids that came up with a big play like that. So, again, that's just a testament of the recruiting that's been coming into the program. Heinrich Harberg has had to be on the pines for the last couple of years, biding time and waiting to maybe get that shot. He got that shot. He's played, I think, pretty good considering, 3 losses. I thought he's done a pretty good job in those games, except for maybe 1 or 2. But, the Michigan game, that's a thing of the past. Obviously, a game that a lot of people want to forget about. But I think, in essence, of what he has done in place of Jeff Sims, I think, he's done what he's been told to do. He's picked up the slack, and I think he's tried to carry this team on his shoulders as best he can with help as well. But for the most part, I really thought the defense was the bright star today with this Nebraska football team, and the defense that Tony White has created more than anything else really stood out with this matchup this afternoon. Tim Bob Kitzmiller joining us here on the Real Red Reaction Show. But if you want to get in really quick, we'll get Tim Bob's take here in a moment. 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865 here on the Real Red Reaction Show, presented by Currency. Tim Bob, your take. I thought today the defense was the shining star in this ball game with Northwestern.
Absolutely. This defense is stellar. I mean, it is just played lights out. That everybody they put on the field. I think I heard they said they had 20 tackles for loss, a dozen sacks. I mean, it was just a phenomenal effort. I thought the game was sloppy. I don't know what
Agreed.
The offense's problem was today. They just from the start, it was just sloppy and disconnected and out of sorts. And they made enough plays to win. And in Matt Rule's world and Husker world is going to have to get used to it. You scored enough points to win the game. It's a W. They didn't ask by how much you won or how pretty it was. It is a win against somebody you need to beat, against a team that traditionally has given Nebraska trouble. That's been a one-score win, a Hail Mary win, a last-second field goal win. They won the game, and it was all the defense just doing. The offense made enough plays to have enough points on the board, but defense played lights out.
I mean, it's been just a day in the Big Ten where football's been set back about 15 years. You started off with Ohio State, Penn State this morning. That's to use a Tim Bob phrase, that was a slobber knocker. Nebraska-Northwestern, that's a slobber knocker. You have Iowa, Minnesota. Now I got the stream pulled up on my phone, so I'll get to this updates on that. That's a 12-10 ball game. And then you have Wisconsin, Illinois, 21-18 ugly ball game as well. It's just how you got to win in the Big Ten sometimes is despite the offense, you have to let your defense step up and make some plays. Nebraska did that today. And I do want to quickly get back into the passing attack because I was vocal on Twitter today complaining about some of the play calling from Marcus Satterfield. And people hop back into my replies and say, well, you can't just run the football into the line of scrimmage 50 times and expect to win a football game. But on the other hand, I think you have to understand what your strengths are as a team. And it's not the fact that Nebraska was throwing the football. It's the fact, or it's how Nebraska attempted to throw the football that I didn't quite like, where you have possessions, 1st and 10, you have a lead in the second half. You decide to throw the ball 3 times and none of those are play action. Or you have moments later in that football game where it's, 3rd down and medium, and you're not using the threat of the run at all. That was my bigger problem. Whenever Nebraska did have the threat of the run, and a play that Matt Rule said in his post-game interview following the game was designed by Tom Osborne, the 44-yard touchdown pass to Malachi Coleman. Tom Osborne and him sat down, watched some film, and T.O., according to Matt Rule, drew that play up for him. They run it today, and it's good for Malachi Coleman's first touchdown of his career. I think that is an incredible story. We talked a little bit on the Hail Varsity show about Matt Rule and Tom Osborne sitting down, getting together last week, and Rule says that was a product of that meeting was Tom Osborne drew up that play. I think that's phenomenal. But aside from that play, if you take that one out, Nebraska had 41 yards through the air, and Heinrich Harberg would have been 7 of 16. Now, you can't just throw that to the side, but those are absolutely shambolic passing numbers. And I mean, there's a couple drops from Fedoni in there. Heinrich Harberg was off the mark just a little bit. But I think the bigger problem was the way that Nebraska tried to throw the football today. I didn't think worked to their advantage in terms of, you're a running football team. Northwestern is the worst team in the Big Ten at stopping the run. I think the threat of the run to open up the pass should be used more. And it felt like at times Nebraska was trying to use the threat of the pass to open up the run. And that's just not who they are as a football team.
Well, I would say that Harberg just looked out of sorts. I don't know if he's overthinking things, but from the very beginning, he didn't look on time or sharp. I mean, he didn't even look like the same quarterback that played at Illinois. So he just had a day where he was off, and it reflected in the passing game. Again, I don't disagree with you, but I will say I think that this coaching staff is learning to coach or call plays in a way that is probably counter to their instincts, because Matt Rule talked about this in his, some of his, press conferences. I have to coach my coaches to not take those passes. Satterfield must have, won out a few times today but Harberg wasn't sharp. And if Tom Osborne was in the room, I'm sure he would have told him, pitch the dang ball. More than once, pitch the ball. The option's there. It's not a quarterback run. Pitch the ball.
Right.
Anyway.
Well, and of course, there was a couple of times where they worked in that pistol formation and they ran the option, and Heinrich Harberg found a crease and got downfield. I mean, it's still.
There were plays where they were out of that play, and they came to the line of scrimmage, and the defender was coming, and he needs to just turn and pitch it, and there's a corner there. That wouldn't have been a touchdown, but it wouldn't have been a loss because the running back had momentum and he could have got down the sideline. There were several of those where he was hesitant about pitching the football, and the option, that's got to be the final threat, is that when you take away the quarterback run, you pitch the ball and you let the running back run with it. And I think he missed at least 2 or 3 opportunities today And I think it was just because he was having a day and he was just hesitant.
Yeah, and it comes down to timing too when you run the option as well. I mean, in order for you to make that work out, especially when you try to make the pitch at the right time. I mean, it all comes down to timing on that. And in a situation like with Heinrich Harberg today, I mean, the timing was where, hey, I've got an open crease. I'm going to take advantage of this and get some extra yardage, and it worked out. So, and again, we've heard this whole narrative over the years that the option is a thing of the past. And I still think it's a very effective type of offense that you can run, especially if you're a running football team. If you want to be identified as a running football team, you run that play, you run other types of ground attack that you can do. But at the same time, you need to be able to throw the football. And granted, there were 2 interceptions early, one of which was a direct toss on the first play from scrimmage. The other one, as I mentioned a moment ago, was at the fingertips of Thomas Fedoni that resulted in an interception. But you still need to take chances at times to throw the football too, especially when there's an opportunity where you need to get upfield and do it in a quick amount of time.
Live update here from Champaign, Wisconsin, down by 3. Braylon Allen takes it for 11 yards on 3rd down. It's a 1st down. And then Wisconsin, on a beautiful pitching catch from 35 yards out, is now down inside the 5-yard line. So they have the ball first and goal with just over a minute left to play against Illinois. We'll have more updates from you on there. But you talk about the fact that Nebraska needs to throw the football, Motzi, and I think that's true moving forward. But I look across the Big Ten West this year, and you don't win in the Big Ten West by throwing the football. And I mean, Wisconsin might be able to prove you needed that this year. I know they're playing without Tanner Mordecai right now, who is kind of the focal point of their offense at the quarterback position. But this year in the Big Ten West, the passing attack is not what you need to go win. A strong rushing attack is winning a lot of games for teams in the Big Ten West.
Granted,
Iowa,
especially if you've got a defense like Nebraska
Illinois.
has. If you have a defense like Iowa and Nebraska and some of the, I mean, literally the defense for Nebraska, gosh, I mean, they are playing lights out. It doesn't matter who they've got out there. That defensive front was just getting off blocks and getting into the backfield. Some great plays in defense. I mean, one of the ones, and I don't know if y'all want to go there, but just they tried to run a quarterback throwback, and the corner was sitting there waiting for it. Took it away. I mean, that's great discipline defense, right on the throwback. They're where they need to be. There were a couple of plays where the quarterback rolled out and the corner, and I've seen it, years. The corner comes rushing up, the quarterback drops it over his head.
Right.
The corner knew where he was at. He stayed back until the quarterback committed himself to crossing the line of scrimmage, and they came up and gang tackled. I mean, they're playing smart, disciplined, physical football on the defensive side that is just like I haven't seen in a long time. I mean, it is really, really good football on that side of the ball, and that's going to win them more games, and running the football than a pretty passing game. I'm with Elijah on this one.
And what that defense does for you is it really extends your margin of error offensively, where Heinrich Harberg can go throw 2 first-half interceptions. You look up at the scoreboard, and you're only down by 3 points. That's not a bad place to be. That's what the defense does for you, and that's how Iowa's won football games for a long time.
And then the defense gives up a long play, but they get the tackle inside the goal line, and they push them back and force them to kick a long field goal. I mean, that defense is bailing out Nebraska and even bailing out themselves when they give up a big play. So, yeah, hats off to the defense, and they are playing lights out.
I think there's no question today was probably their best performance of the football season, simply because of the way that they were kind of mosquitoing around, if you will, around the quarterback Sullivan, how they were able to break past that protection and get into the pocket. I think there's no question that today's performance from the Husker defense may have been the best all season, arguably, and it can be debated if that's the case. But back to the passing game, I think you guys made a good point about the Big Ten West being very run-oriented when it comes to offense. But at the same time, you don't want to completely shy away from the passing attack either, because what if you face a future opponent and they're going to find a way to stop the ground attack? You got to be able to obviously use the passing option
Well,
as a.
and I think
Go
it's
ahead,
what Elijah was talking about. They set that up, that play action pass, when they from Malachi Coleman. I mean, that was all set up because that safety is coming up and coming up and coming up to stop, and then you fake it to that tailback, turn around and throw that deep ball. And now that you've got, again, Malachi Coleman's got the speed to take the top off of that defense, which you didn't have a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't have that kind of speed. And now that they've trusted him, I think, that may be a game, maybe another element to the offense that we may see as the season progresses in the second half.
Guys, we go to the phone lines now where we go to California. Tad in California giving us a phone call. Tad, welcome into the Real Red Reaction Show. What do you got for us today?
Hey, guys. Good afternoon. Listen, we'll take the victory. It's very nice, but we have to learn how to run the football, and we got to pound it until we know how to do it, and then everything will open up. Tight ends, receivers. But, I mean, this first half, coming out and throwing the ball twice and getting 2 interceptions and, just falling behind the sticks. It's just, to me, if we can ever learn how to run the football again, even though we can do it in the third and the fourth quarters, we just start the game like that. And I think everybody understands that, that's where we're at because of the skill set that we have up front. We don't have guys that can drop back and pass and really, the offensive linemen. And we just got to get skilled guys up front and got to keep that going. But I appreciate everything you guys do.
Tad, thanks for the call. Appreciate you listening in on the stream today.
A quick update here from Champaign as Wisconsin has taken a lead with 27 seconds left. They have the left tackle check in as eligible. He catches a touchdown pass, and Wisconsin leads Illinois 25-21. So there's your update from Champaign. I know we also have some drama in the Iowa football game as well. I'll get an update from there, as well as Iowa returned a punt for a touchdown. And I believe the punt has been taken off the board due to a fair catch. So it was a fair catch called by Cooper DeJean, and Iowa's going to take over with the football, but it wipes a touchdown off the board late for the Iowa Hawkeyes. They find themselves down by 2 at their own 46-yard line. They have 54 yards to pay her, 1:33 left there. So some drama late in the Big Ten West here in this 2:30 window.
Well, just a point there. I mean, Nebraska's, again, they lost some offensive linemen today, right? And that's probably
Piper
a big
went
concern.
out.
Piper went out. Scott was out for a little while.
He came back in on that final drive.
He did come back in, but the offensive lineman it's really shallow. And I do think, and again, maybe I'm drinking a little of the Roulade. I've been watching some of that GB Rewind, and I think, and listening to Matt Rule's press conferences, he's trying to figure out what do we do well on the offensive side of the ball, or well enough on the offensive side of the ball to complement this defense, because he realizes that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this defense is elite, and so I just need to figure out what we can do well enough. And I think he's having to rein in his coaching staff and rein in his offensive, play caller and go, listen, be smart. And maybe they thought that, that first pass, breaking tendencies and this type of thing. I think they're still learning as a coaching staff, how to coach this team and do what they do. And it's tough on them because, and I compliment Rule because I was thinking about this today, and forgive me if I'm on a rant here, but we haven't had a coaching staff come in here and say, I'm going to humble myself and not try to impose my offensive philosophy on players who don't have that talent. Matt Rule is going to Tom Osborne. He's going to other coaches. He's looking at tape and he's going, what can we do here to win these football games that maybe isn't what I would do. Maybe it's not part of the OC's, instincts, but we've got to find things to do it. And I think that's a compliment to understand I've got to be better and find ways to win, even if it's not what the fans want me to do, right? And it's not what, the press thinks I should do. And it may not be what my offensive coordinator thinks we should do, but it's what I believe we're going to do to get those 6 wins against teams we should or can beat. My bad. That's all I got.
I should point out one thing here really quick. I want to get the phone numbers out. If you want to call into the Real Red Reaction Show, 402-489-1240, 402-489-1240 here in Lincoln. Outside the Lincoln Metro, 800-825-5865. That's 800-825-5865. We got the track going on our social media feeds and also through our YouTube feed. Brody brings up an interesting point, and he poses this as a serious question. How long will Nebraska be able to keep Tony White, especially if this defense continues to get better and better, not just the rest of this year, but next year? I mean, I would imagine that he could become a hot commodity at some point if things continue to get better and continue to improve.
Well, I was watching the Big Red wrap-up this weekend and playback it, and one of the guests said, pay Tony White $3 million, whatever you got to do, write the check, because that guy is worth the money at this point. Go to the donors and get the money, because that's a good buy right there. So, hopefully that's the case. But I think it's a really good question, because, with this defense and the way it's playing, he's going to get some phone calls. You hope that his, relationship with Matt Rule and Nebraska. I mean, Nebraska for years was able to keep a lot of assistant coaches. And I think that's one of the other reasons Tom Osborne was so successful, because he kept that collection of offensive and defensive assistant coaches in place for so long that they built on that continuity. And I think that's another thing that gets overlooked in college football today is, everybody wants to go take their shot at a head coaching job. Nothing wrong with being a great defensive coordinator.
Update from Iowa City. Down goes the Hawkeyes as Minnesota goes into Iowa City, gets a 12-10 victory as they're kneeling it out. So barring any sort of miracle, that one is over. We go now to the phone lines where Dan in Kearney gives us a call. Dan, welcome into the Real Red Reaction Show. What do you have for us today?
Phone line. Hello?
Hey, Dan.
You're on the air.
Reaction Show. You're on the air. What do you have for us today?
I just want to say, I mean, the defense was fucking fantastic tonight. And Heinrich Harberg should never throw a ball ever again.
Well,
I got the old censor ready for the on the air. So it's the Real Red Reaction Show. That's good stuff there. You can do that online. I got the dump button on the air, and we're good there, Steve.
Yeah, Dan, enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for chiming in, so to speak. But it is Saturday, and there are a few of us, including myself, have maybe had a few barley pops here and there. But needless to say, now one thing that was brought up on the chat earlier was Heinrich Harberg's throwing motion as we kind of go toward that particular topic. He throws sidearm. There's a lot of, have you noticed there are more quarterbacks throwing sidearm lately? Why? I wonder why is that? Is that just a new technique that they've tried to teach to make guys feel comfortable in throwing the football?
Here's my take on this, and this is just coming from an old quarterback, all right, back in the day. I had coaches say, look, I can, at some point you're going to throw the ball the way you throw the ball. I can help with your footwork. I can help with your reads down the field, but changing a quarterback at that level's throwing motion is really hard to do. So you're going to have to learn to call plays. He's going to have to learn to manage around that throwing motion, because it is a low delivery. I mean, he's a tall guy, but he doesn't take it up. But if you look at the different throwing motions Nebraska's had over the years and thought about, Taylor Martinez, right? He tried to change his throwing motion, went through all those camps, and he still, when it came game time, he threw it the way he threw the ball. I mean, instinctively, that's the way you're throwing. So you're not going to change the way Harberg throws the ball. You can improve his rolling him out of the pocket, his footwork, his reads and how he sees the field, but you're not going to change the way he throws the ball. And just, whether, he grew up playing baseball, right? It's one of those kind of throwing motions as opposed to a classic over the top, up here kind of throw. But it is what it is at this point, and you're not going to change it And I think most coaches will tell you, trying to change a quarterback's throw delivery at this point is a wasted effort, and it's probably just going to frustrate him and you as well.
Well, what's interesting is if you go back and watch Heinrich Harberg's film from Kearney Catholic, you don't see many sidearm throws.
No.
And if you remember back, Verduzco said something early in Harberg's tenure about trying to change his throwing motion a little bit. I wonder if this is something Verduzco and him worked on before the Matt Rule era, finding out he was a little more accurate on those short passes when throwing it sidearm. And you obviously have the risk of it getting batted down. And you also have the issue with going deep. It's kind of the same reason why you allow your second baseman and your shortstops in baseball to throw sidearm more than your third baseman and your outfielders. It's more difficult to throw accurately with power sidearm. But if a guy feels more comfortable throwing sidearm on those short to intermediate passes, I think it's kind of like you're playing with fire a little bit, but I think you can live with it if you do find a guy who's more accurate with that sidearm delivery. And we've seen Harberg, for the most part, on short passes be pretty accurate with the sidearm delivery. It gets hairy once you get intermediate and deep routes. But I do wonder if that was something that was changed by Verduzco during his time at the University of Nebraska.
And it's not like the Uncle Rico throwing motion from Napoleon Dynamite, where he's out there practicing throwing the football in front of the video camera. He's throwing it, sidearm like that. But it's highly noticeable. The only thing I would have to say is if you're going to throw a sidearm pass, wouldn't you worry, especially if you're trying to throw a deep ball, wouldn't you worry about that pass being swatted down more often than anything?
Well, again, that would be the thing I would do. I mean, normally the knock, that is the thing. Michigan showed it, and everybody in the Big Ten is going to do it. Get your arms up, and you can knock balls down against Nebraska and Harberg because of his delivery. I think the coaching staff is going to have to learn offensive line. And again, it's about figuring out ways to win with what you have. But, I don't know, changing a throwing motion. It may be that Harberg, at Kearney Catholic, a C1 school, he was a lot taller than everybody else. So it really didn't matter.
True.
He was probably taller than the lineman. So it didn't matter, in terms of, how he delivered the ball.
We're going to wait to bring Chris Schmitty on. He's standing by in the green room. We'll give that just a second. But first, we go to the phone lines where Ashton calls in from North Platte, Nebraska. Ashton, welcome into the Real Red Reaction Show. What do you got for us today?
Hey, I was just wondering, I thought the defense, they played excellent, but I think our offense, it's lacking a little in the passing game. But I do think our run game has a lot of potential. I just want to know why on the first play of the game we're throwing a ball when we know that we're a run first team.
Your guess is as
Heinrich
good
Harberg
as mine.
You know what? That's the $64 million question. I think that
actually with Marcus Satterfield's salary, it's the $1.2 million question.
Well, okay. But but that, that again, that's a question that everybody's wondering today. Why was your first play from scrimmage a pass, which ended up being intercepted? And instead of going with probably the quick handoff or a quick option play or whatever, we'll probably find out here from Coach Rule here in a few moments. And I believe we got Coach Rule audio standing by.
We do, and I'll give that here just a second. But again, as I said a little earlier in this show, it's not the fact that Nebraska's throwing the football. It's not even the fact that Nebraska's throwing the football in the first play of the game. It's that they're not turning to play action to do so whenever you're playing against the worst rushing defense in the Big Ten. You got to expect that Northwestern team is going to be geared up for you to run the football. You're averaging over 200 yards per game on the ground. On the first play of the game, you're not even going to go for a play action pass. I mean, of the 17 passing attempts that Heinrich Harberg had today, and I need to go back and watch the film. I'll do my weekly rewatch probably sometime tomorrow on a Sunday because Lord knows I don't want to watch my Denver Broncos this year. So I'll probably complete my rewatch at some point tomorrow. I need to actually take a tally. How many of those 17 were straight dropbacks for Heinrich Harberg and how many of those were play action? Because when I look at those 17, I think I can count on one hand how many of those were play action of some sort. And maybe I'm a little bit low there, but it definitely wasn't the majority of those being play action from Heinrich Harberg. And if I'm sitting there as the offensive coordinator, there's a reason I'm not. There's a reason I'm behind a microphone right now instead of doing a post-game press conference. I'm not a coach. I don't claim to be an offensive coordinator, but it still seems from my outside perspective to lack any real rationale, because I think if I'm the offensive coordinator for Nebraska, if Heinrich Harberg drops back to throw 17 times, at least 15 of those are going to be play action of some sort.
Right. Hey, really quick before we take a break, fellas, just a couple of quick stats here I'll throw out here. Total offense today, Northwestern had 257 yards, Nebraska 248. Net yards passing 176 for Northwestern, 85 for Nebraska. Rushing, Nebraska had 163 yards on the ground, 81 for Northwestern. Just throwing some of that stuff out, that coming from...
And 4.4 yards per play for Nebraska, 4.1. I mean, this was a even game in terms of stats, but it never felt like Northwestern had a chance to win this game because how well the defense played.
So what we'll do is we'll take a break. We'll come back with more of the Real Red Reaction Show presented by Currency.
Before we get there, Mozi, I do want to preview something we can talk about next segment, and that is the current Big Ten West standings, as we now have a couple of games that have gone final. I don't want to get into this a little bit later in the show because why not? Wisconsin currently at first place in the Big Ten West. They're at 3-1, their only loss being to Iowa. But you also look at Wisconsin's schedule. Still to come on Wisconsin's schedule, Ohio State and Nebraska, as well as Minnesota. So the real meat of their schedule still yet to come. Iowa, they're sitting at 3-2 as they've played 5. Their bye week is still to come, and they still have to play Nebraska as well. And then Nebraska currently sitting in third place at 2-2. And I'm not quite sure why Nebraska is currently above Minnesota, as Minnesota would have the tiebreaker at 2-2. But according to the official Big Ten West standings on the big10.org, Nebraska is currently ahead of Minnesota. But again, I think Minnesota has that on the tiebreaker. So Nebraska, though, still does control their own destiny in the Big Ten West, assuming Minnesota doesn't run the table. And Minnesota still has yet to play Ohio State. So I think you can most likely chalk that one up as a likely loss for Minnesota. So Nebraska still controlling their destiny in the Big Ten West. Winning out will almost guarantee you a spot in the Big Ten title game. And who would have thought you'd be saying that 3 weeks ago? We'll probably get to that a little bit later in the show, as well as Matt Rule's post-game press conference.
All right, that's all coming up here when the Real Red Reaction Show presented by Currency continues after this on KFOR.
KFOR is Lincoln's high school sports station. Count on Jeff, Schmitty, Elijah, Connor, and Will to bring you all the action all season long. The big games, the breathtaking wins, and those heartbreaking misses. Hear the excitement of prep games here on Lincoln's station for local news, talk, weather, and sports. FM 101.5, 1240 AM, KFOR.
Get 11% off your favorite food and drinks at Menards. Latza Matza Pizza is loaded with over a half a pound of real Wisconsin cheese and piled high with your favorite premium toppings. It's big, bold, and outrageously delicious. Stock up on Brewpub Latza Matza Pizza today. Now just $5.99 each after 11% rebate at Menards. Good through October 22nd. Savings or mail-in rebate. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Save big money at Menards.
There's never any FOMO with the iHeartRadio app. You won't ever have to miss out on your favorite shows and contests with this radio station again. Radio 24/7, 365. We're here when you want us. Stay connected and listen anywhere when you download the free iHeartRadio app.
James Brown and Bill Cowher welcoming you back to Dennis Melvin's house. It's time for the Midnight Snack Run.
This is one tricky obstacle course. Sticking to healthy habits in this kitchen is going to take focus and determination, but it can be done, JB.
He's already entered the snack part of the course, and he's eyeballing a jar of chocolate candy.
That is tempting right off the start.
Uh-oh, he's reaching, Bill, but he pushes it away.
Great stiff arm.
He's approaching a plate of delicious-looking iced cookies.
Oh, Dennis, you only want one of those.
He blows right by him for the apple.
Oh, the fridge. It's make or break time, JB.
He stares down some rich-looking treats. Uh-oh, looks like he's headed for the soda. Wait, he jukes left, grabs the water bottle, and shuts the door with his elbow in record time.
Unbelievable move. I gotta see that again.
And he's out. He even turned off the light.
That's the way you execute a midnight snack run.
Stand Up to Cancer and Rally want you to reduce your risk for cancer.
Go to takeahealthystand.org.
To protect her home and family in a disaster, Karen was willing to wade through water, mud, and insurance paperwork.
Yeah, I can do this.
You go, Karen. By simply understanding and updating what her insurance covers and doesn't cover now, she'll be better prepared no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
The state high school football playoffs begin next Friday night with time and game to be determined. Be sure to check out KFOR's Facebook and Twitter accounts for more details.
FM 101.5, 1240 AM, KFOR. This is the Real Red Reaction Show. Phones are open now, 402-489-1240.
The Real Red Reaction Show rolls forward here on KFOR as we're reacting to Nebraska's 17-9 victory over Northwestern. It was ugly. The defense came to play, in Nebraska at the end of the day is above 500 at 4-3. We want to get your reaction. Give us a call, 402-489-1240. And we please ask that you do not drop any more F-bombs like our good friend out in Kearney just a little bit earlier on the show. Chris Schmidt, I see him down in downtown Lincoln. He is currently at the corner of, it looks like, 11th and P, as maybe that's 11th and O, actually. We'll get Schmitty in on the show here in just a second. Maybe he wants to join now. His connection does not look great, so maybe we'll give Schmitty a second to get himself settled. If he can hear me, Schmitty, if you're all set to go, give me a thumbs up. He's giving me a thumbs up, and we're going to welcome Chris Schmidt into the show here on the Real Red Reaction Show. Chris, we haven't heard from you just yet. What are your thoughts? Nebraska's 17-9 victory. I already said it. It was ugly, but at the end of the day, you'll take a win. What do you got for us just in terms of reaction, thoughts on the game, and what it means for Nebraska moving forward as they still control their own destiny in the West?
Well, guys, thanks for having me in. Walking here with the Pride of Fairbury, Bill Dolman. And it's a joyous downtown. Nebraska won. Nebraska won a one-score game against Northwestern. When's the last time that happened? The Sea of Hands kick, right?
Yeah, 2021.
So, yeah. 2019.
2019, excuse me.
So it was ugly. It was kind of head-scratching. You guys nailed it with some of the play calling. But the shot to Malachi, big
that
time.
Was pretty. That was pretty.
You have a defense that just lions and red meat, man. They're down. They're getting after the quarterback. They were confident. So the gist is this. Nebraska's going to have to win games the rest of the year like they did.
Sorry,
And,
one of the comments is, "Oh, maybe abusing gummy bears again." So we had
I love that. Easy Husker. I love that. Send some to Elijah's house. If there's any law enforcement.
My house? I'm not going to jail.
You can blame a roommate. If I blame my wife, well, you know. But no, they won, and that's how life's going to be in the West, fellas. Look at the Iowa game today. They're revolting in Iowa City with that. Oh, he called a fair catch. No, he didn't. And here comes Junior's offense. No, big-time win. Clearly beats the alternative. And Nebraska made enough plays. They did more shotgun run. I'm happy with that. But Harberg really was just out of sorts all game. To be frank with you, he never, ever got comfortable. I don't like the play calling. I don't like as many pass attempts that weren't play action. And the total yardage was problematic.
Well, we had
back here at the single barrel.
We had a question in on the stream a little bit earlier. With the defensive performance today and this year, how much longer will Tony White make it at Nebraska before he gets plucked up by another program? And I think the better question for a prop bet might be, who remains longer at Nebraska? Is it Marcus Satterfield or is it Tony White?
I don't think either are in danger. White's incredible, but you're just not hearing his name. There's going to be some openings, right? But you just haven't seen his name quite yet. Not that he doesn't deserve that, but maybe do this a couple more years, and then he's ready for the jump, according to those prognosticators for the coaching carousel. And Satterfield isn't going anywhere, and I know Nebraska fans are super uptight. And it's chicken or the egg. Is it the personnel he has, or is it his play calling? Because his deep shot worked. That put the game away. But just the drive before, it's 14 seconds and you go 3 and out. So they got to figure out the balance. And above all, there's got to be better execution, because interception, punt, interception, those were garbage throws. I mean, Fedoni was wide open. So it comes down to execution, quite frankly. And you're calling what you see in practice. You're calling what you think can work against the defense. But there just wasn't a lot of comfort for Harberg out of the gate throwing the football. Elijah, you nailed it on Twitter with why not at least test Northwestern and their run defense based on where their ranking is. And you just don't overthink it. Make them stop you, and then go after them with some safe passes. And they just don't do that often enough. But the big shot that he's tried to dial up all season long worked, and that won the ball game for him. And quite honestly, 4 red zone trips, 9 points, 3 field goals. Nebraska's defense, they loved the environment. They loved the challenge. They loved the fact that they had to go out there and be Superman. So you have that side of the ball working for you. There'll be a work in progress continually on offense. And they're beat up on the offensive line. That concerns me next week.
Along those lines with the offensive line, Ethan Piper, have you heard what his status is? It didn't look good when he was being carted off earlier.
We did not get an injury update. The Rule, we listened to Rule, and he didn't have any specifics yet as to what was going on. So that's not
I believe the quote
thing.
from Matt Rule was Ethan Piper, he's in some pain. That's about all I know right now. I believe that's paraphrasing, but that was about the tenor from Matt Rule. We can actually listen to Matt Rule here if we'd like. He spent about 15 minutes post-game talking. That'll give Schmitty a chance to get flipped over to ye old Tom Rex, but I do have that ready to go whenever we'd like.
Yep, go ahead and run that, and I'll be over in a moment.
Let's go ahead.
Hang tight.
Yep, let's go ahead and roll that audio. And here's Coach Matt Rule after the victory today for Nebraska over Northwestern.
Well, I'm really proud of the football team. As I told them, late in the fourth quarter, the defense came over. We were up by 11. And I said, everything that happens in your life happens for a reason, prepares you for what's next. And a year ago, you guys had an 11-point lead, had a little bit of adversity, and you let them run the ball down the field and score. And they did. Well, they did score. They did play. I thought our guys battled and fought, and a lot of young players came through that, just really, really proud of. I just want to make sure I say, I went to Baylor in the midst of trying times before the transfer portal. I think the man, Coach Braun, is doing a phenomenal job. And that team fights and they compete. And we knew it would go all the way down to the end. But I do want to highlight the young players today. James Williams, who's on our scout team. We said, hey, we're going to bring him up for a week. He's an excellent pass rusher, and should tell the guys that we mean what we say. Emmett Johnson as a redshirt freshman, Mackay, Justin Evans-Jenkins steps in at guard and then goes to center. Really proud of those things. I know on defense we're going to talk a lot about the stats, but however many sacks, tackles for loss. I was proud of the guys running them down when plays got behind us, getting the ball down, playing another play, and holding it to a field goal. Those of you here, I think I talked the other day, these guys were 70% touchdowns in the red zone. And these guys were one of the best third down teams. And so I knew we were going to have to win third down. I thought the defense did that. Offensively, it was obviously a really, really out of sync night. A lot of things that happened shouldn't have happened. And so we're just going to have to, the key is with the young quarterback, you play through those things. You coach through those things. That first play, it opens up just like we thought. Thomas is open for a touchdown. The ball's a little bit behind. We keep playing. Next ball's a little bit high. We keep playing. Some balls on the ground. So there's a lot that we have to continue to do. But I do want to tell you, and I want the people in Nebraska to know that I don't do anything theatrical during games. I don't point to the crowd. I don't point to my family. But I did point up to Coach Osborne's box because Coach Osborne came in and said, if you guys are going to keep running the belly G option, you have to run the belly G pass. And Ron's been telling us that, and we've been running it. But we got that turnover, and we said, let's run it. And Malachi, that's the route. That's the route that you run for the love of the game to get everyone else open. And Malachi ran by everybody, ran the belly G option pass, hit it for a touchdown. And so I thought we played like a team. The loss of Billy was devastating tonight. Most of that game plan was built around him. Jaden came in, and we tried to, function the base things. But I was proud of the offensive staff for just continuing to try to find things, but we left a lot out there. So that's a lot that I said. I apologize, but obviously I have some thoughts after that game. But I'll just say this, I think we would have lost that game at the beginning of the year. And after all the adversity we've gone through and the toughness we're building, that's a game that we now win.
Questions? How big was that, for Malachi? And do you sense that play was going to be there at some point?
No, we actually had another play that we thought we'd hit him on all week. That play, like I said, he's running through the secondary, like I say, for the love of the game, to open up Bullock and those guys coming back. And you always say, hey, you could be open. Actually, Garrett McGuire said to me, it's going to be open. And I told him he was nuts. And so I had to say, I was sorry. I was like, Garrett, you were right on that after he was open. But to me, it just shows young players making plays. Jalen Lloyd's out there. Jaden Doss is out there. The guys I mentioned, I'm probably missing many more of the young guys out there playing. Principal's out there. Cam's playing. The older guys have done a good job. But that's when we practiced, and it came up, and we hit it.
How would you characterize, in your words, the overall play of the defense?
I thought it was periods dominant, but somewhat spotty in terms of, as I told them at the half, there was like 85 yards rushing at the half. We don't do that. And they did a really nice job off of bye week. They were getting into tackle over, and they were finding a way to pin and pull and put a tackle on Quentin Newsome. And Noose was coming off and setting the edge. You used to be able to cut that guy 2 years ago. You can't cut him anymore. So they had a couple runs. But I thought save that. And, Malcolm's a safety, and all of a sudden Tommy Hill gets hurt going into half. So Tommy Hill didn't play the second half. So Malcolm now goes back to corner. And that's the one thing we never wanted to do is move Malcolm from safety to corner in game. We just went back to Mondo. Tamon did a great job stepping up. But, two big plays. But other than that, I thought the defense, I thought they were close to dominant at times.
Toward the end of the third quarter, you have Brian Bushini's punt 55 yards. Then you pin them back. I think Jamari got a sack. And then that set you up at the 44. How important were those three phases in that compressed part?
Yeah, man. I'm looking forward to the game where we start with the ball on offense on like the plus 35. We seem to have so many that are down in row one in the first couple of drives, and they're always kind of playing with the field tilted. That's how we want to play, though. Bushini's been a rock star for us, pinning the ball down. I don't pay attention to punters' averages. I don't pay attention, especially when you're punting in this wind here. It was a windy day. But to make that play, our gunner stepped up to get the sack, to get the punt return, and then to hit the play right after that. To me, that's how we want to play. And I think the biggest thing, Sam, was our guys were comfortable in that stressful environment. We're not playing great on offense. The ball, I want to say great, like, the ball's on the ground when it doesn't have to be. Like, just Heinrich's a little bit out of sorts, just, a little bit jittery, trying to do a little too much. And you know what? You hit a play like that, and that just kind of puts you over the edge. So it's special teams, offense, defense working together.
What is the status?
Right before that, you guys went 3 and out. It was 3 quick passes, like a 14-second drive. How do you find that balance between playing the complementary football that he's talking about with the great punt that defense can lead to a touchdown, but also having a threat to pass the ball when the percentages weren't great today?
Yeah, we're not gonna. We just decided today, like going into the game, we weren't gonna play in fear. Like we felt like, the passes were there. A lot of our passes are like, hey, it's a pass with a quarterback draw, or it's a pass with it. So the pass might happen. And I said at one point, like, hey, we're starting to get a little bit like, we're starting to try to run the ball. We're better when we're mixing it. We come out on a wheel route. Alex is wide open. We just didn't quite hit it today, right? So. But I don't know how we'll get better if we don't call it and do it and work through it. So I only worry about things like that, like 3 quick passes, when our defense is tired. When the time of possession is tilted in our favor, or it's close, it's even, the defense isn't tired. I don't worry about those things. If I was thinking that way, I probably just said, hey, run the ball here, but we have a lead. but we took the shot to Malachi. We had some other shots in the game that we thought we were going to have. They made a couple plays. So I just think we have to continue to be aggressive, and we have to just coach our way and work our way through these phases of, hey, it's not super pretty right now. Just keep playing.
What was the outlook on Billy Kemp and Ethan Piper when they went down?
Yeah, I don't know if Billy sounded like maybe it was an MCL. Obviously they haven't done any stuff. They let him stay on the sidelines, which is usually a good sign that we'll get him back at some point. Again, kind of this week, I think Sam asked me, do you have to get the ball to Billy? And we had so much, I can't tell you how much stuff we had set up for Billy. So that really was jarring, just to have that happen. Pipe seemed like it maybe was a little bit worse. So I'm going to wait and see what that is. He seemed like he was in pain, and I hated for him. He's the heart and soul of our team. So, and then Tommy was an ankle right before the half, came out of the half, tested it, just didn't feel like he could go. So we had to sit him for the second half.
Is this the kind of game you said you see the identity as kind of defense first? Is this the kind of game you envision when you say that the defense are picking up the offense?
Yeah, I don't say that we're respectfully. I don't say that we're defense first. I want our defense to understand we're a defensive football team. That doesn't mean the offense takes a back seat to it. It just means that I expect that our defense is going to go win games when they have a chance to win games. And there's not a lot of teams in football. There's a lot of high-flying spread teams that their defenses aren't very good, and everyone complains about the D coordinator. There's a lot of defensive teams. Like I was watching Penn State, Ohio State in the locker room, get ready to go out there, and it was like 10-6 at the half. There's only a few teams that are really good at both. A couple years ago, Clemson was in the top 10 at both, and that's really because it's how you practice, how you do things, and we're working towards that. But it's not defense first. It's just that I want our guys on defense to understand it does not matter what happens on offense. Go play. The ball was inside our 25 3 times. They came away with 3 field goals. Four times they came away with 3 field goals. But yet, when Christian Alvano goes out there and, you talk about something big for our team. It was a 47-yarder into the wind. It was into the wind. Yes, that was the wind this way. So, there's a lot of bright spots there that I see that. But I just want to make sure our guys on defense know, hey, if we have one more point than them at half, the game should be over. And that's what black shirts stand for, isn't it? So we're just trying to bring that back.
You mentioned that maybe this was a game you may not have won earlier in the year. Why do you think you were able to do that today, and what caused the maturity in your group?
Because we lost earlier in the year. It's not real popular to say nowadays, but if you want to build a big building, you got to dig a foundation. As I said, I saw a lot of teams last week that were super awesome early, and they're yelling at each other on the sidelines. We went through adversity, and the players got to see that the coaches don't change. The coaches got to see that the players keep coming in each week. The players got to see that we battled each other. It doesn't mean I wanted to lose those games. It just means that, you talk to some of the players, that were on the national championship team. They talk about after, losing to Florida State the year before, and, Ed Stewart saying, hey, we can't never let this happen again. Going through tough times, tough times create strong men, and we have a group of strong men there, and the guys on defense, I've challenged them over and over again. What are you going to do if things don't start off well early? And they answered that call for me today, so I'm good with them.
Jake Williams, you say he was on the scout team. When did you move him up exactly?
Yeah, he was on the scout team for parts of this week. I mean, he's in one package. They wanted to put him up. A lot of that was the bye week. We've got some really good players that are redshirting and developing. It's going to come to fruition in a pretty cool way. We have him and Kai Wallen, our 2 edge players sometimes on scout team, Sua, Vincent, Carroll Jackson. We've got some really good players. As we come down the stretch, we wanted to get some of these guys in. Part of this is some of our guys, if they didn't get here in the summer, they're just not physically ready, but now they are. We have a receiver that's put on 27 pounds since he got here in June, and he looks great. So it's a year-round thing. But yeah, he just did, he's been doing well in the bye week, and then we thought this was a game they would drop back and throw it 50 times. So Tony and Terrence and them created that 5 D lineman package to just have 5 guys rush. When we didn't do it, the quarterback stepped up and made some plays. 5 guys were able to kind of collapse the pocket. And then let me just say this. I don't want to be remiss. I love the guys chasing those guys down. The play that Isaac Gifford made on the screen today, that's guy blows an assignment, guy blitzes up. He has the back. He comes off the edge. I mean, that play's out for a touchdown. And that's a game-changing play that Giff made. So it was young guys. It was old guys. And there was a lot of guys in between. And I told them, well, it ain't pretty. Well, it wasn't the prettiest of games. It's a win. It's a win. It's a win.
How far has this line come under 9-10 months? I guess some of that obviously is scheme. They're just beating the guys with moves and technique.
I think the credit goes to the players. I think Terrence has done a good job. I think a lot of it's the way we practice. We do one-on-one pass rush live. We do team compete live. They get so many reps about going against each other. The scout team. A lot of teams, probably more offensive teams, like their scout team. The defensive guys read a card, just kind of get beat. Our guys, we compete. James is hard to block in practice. So. Because we do that, we allow guys, and I think a lot of credit goes to Corey and Kristen. Corey does an amazing job of lifting these guys. They lift 3 days a week during the season, so they continue to get bigger and stronger. Kristen feeds them. So a guy like James is coming from junior college. He's just getting better and better and better. But Terrence is an excellent coach, and I love the creativity today of all the different packages we had, rotating guys in and out.
And Matt, what's made you want to embrace? You talked about reminding the guys about the Northwestern game a year ago that they were up 11 points and then gave it away. Why do you want to bring things up like that now, which seems to be maybe kind of a change for you from the beginning of the year?
No. Yeah, that's a great question. I don't bring things up like that as motivation. Like these guys got us, and I don't believe in that. What I do believe is that everything that happens to us in our lives prepares us for the next stage of our life. And most people, it's so painful they don't want to learn from it. But there's a positive application of pain. Like it was painful for my wife, my kids, and I to go to games, right? And like it was painful for me to go to games and have my kids sit there at Carolina and have them boo us. Like I'll be honest, when the crowd boos here, it almost like it. I kind of almost go back there a little bit, like I can feel myself. It's one of the reasons why I came here, because I didn't want to go somewhere like that. You know what I mean? Like what I went through. So there's a positive application of that. I've learned, like, you know what, Matt, do what you think is right. Like if you want to go for it, go for it. If you're not. Same thing with our players. So my message to them, because Ron did a great job in Chapel for the guys that were in Chapel. I just said, hey, we haven't played 60 minutes of just us playing together. Let's try to play 60 minutes. I don't know if we did because there were some, weak things, but we just kind of battled back and forth. And I didn't bring up the Northwestern game at all until I think brought it up at the game. I was like, the shame of the Northwestern game last year was there was a narrative that we lost because we had a surprise onside kick. What are you talking about? That's not why you lost. You lost because they scored more points than you. And I told them at halftime, like, stop looking at the coach to make a different call. Stop worrying about the play calling. Our players got to go beat their players. And so in the fourth quarter, I'm saying to them, how often in life do you have a chance to go back and redo something? Hey, we have an 11-point lead. Let's go play. And so I want them to understand that, because as they start businesses and as they have families, tough things are going to happen. And I don't want them to be like the people who are victims. I want them to say, this happened to me. I'm going to use it for good. I'm going to learn from it, and I'm going to move forward. So, but yeah, it's not a mixed message in my mind, at least, Mitch. It's not like I'm saying, like, they got us, we got to get them. I'm not saying that. I'm more saying, hey, why did that happen? Because we were worried about all the wrong things. Tonight, let's just go play the next snap, the next play. Don't worry about the offense. Offense, don't worry about the defense. Let's have each other's back, play together. I mean, Ethan Nation jumped in the game and played, and played well. So, that's kind of the message, if that makes sense. Anybody else? All right, guys, thank you. I'll see you again next week, huh? We do it again.
There is Matt Rule. Post-game thoughts following Nebraska and Northwestern. And guys, your reaction to some of the things we heard there.
It's a win. That's what I heard.
That's what I heard too.
Well, and he gave a little bit to the why, where Nebraska's not going to get better by being afraid to call pass plays. And there's been a lot of angst with the execution of it. There's been a lot of angst with the timing of when said pass play is called. It worked out today. The home run shot to Malachi, to go back to that. And that was your difference, right? Nebraska won by 8. Some of us in the press box were hoping that maybe there's a broken tackle and, they get by the 11.5 number, but it didn't happen. They went into the old victory formation, so Northwestern did cover. But I'm just watching the highlights of all the Big Ten ball games, specifically in the West. I mean, it is nothing but knockout, drag out fourth quarters.
Yep.
Minnesota found a way with 4 field goals today and got the mother of all breaks in Iowa City by the Zebras. The only possible way Iowa could have won that game is with a special teams return. They got it. It was negated. Wisconsin, with their backup quarterback, found a way to come back from an 11-point deficit in Champaign. It helped that Illinois got a hose job call with their top defensive tackle on targeting, but still, Wisconsin threw 2 touchdown passes in the fourth quarter to win 25-21 at Illinois. That was your tipping point game for the Badgers. They're first in the West now. So Nebraska is like a lot of these teams where, man, it tests your patience as a fan. It really makes you a one side of the ball dominant team, even though Rule touched on that, hey, I don't just love the defense. The offense is still slowly coming along, but you've seen instances in the wins this year where all 3 phases jump in. Buscemi was great kicking the football and great kicking the football into the wind. Pinnin, Northwestern. Northwestern had a couple of big plays. Nebraska's offense, though, has to start pulling their own weight. I think that's the fear. The fear is, when is that going to happen? They've gotten a little bit better, but guys, I mean, as I say it in one side of my mouth, they're getting better. They looked worse today than they've looked in a while on offense. Now they're working with a lot of substitute parts right now because of all these injuries, and it's only going to get worse or kind of more of the same with that injury situation on offense. So they're going to have to turn to Malachi Coleman, use his ability. They're going to have to get Harberg settled down to start a game next Saturday at 2:30 against this Purdue defense and beyond. So each week is a chance to get better and learn and do it while winning is what Matt Rule hopes. So as much as it was hard to watch, Nebraska got a win. To your point, Tim Bob, by 8, a 1-score ball game against the pesky Northwestern Wildcats, who should be over this year, but they got a lot of heartbeat and they're not. So a lot of great folks here at the Single Barrel, man, just pounding steak, drinking cocktails. It's a happy downtown, and you don't get to see that. You haven't seen that in Lincoln for a long time, and you're seeing more of it each Saturday.
And there's a happy locker room for the Huskers today, too. You haven't seen that in a while. I'm not sure if you guys have seen the video just yet, but the Husker football team put it up on their Twitter page. Matt Rule doing some crowd surfing on the Husker football team following the game. He jumped up, and they carried him around the locker room. It's a pretty funny video, and I have a feeling we'll get the chance to see that in the next episode of the GB Rewind, which seems to be done after wins. So something tells me we'll be getting another dose of that video here in the coming days.
Hey, AZ Husker has just chimed in with another comment, Elijah.
Harburg needs some of those gummies to chill.
Yeah, chill out, man.
AZ Husker tipped us, I think, a $20 spot. We're going to have one hell of a postseason party with all these tips coming in on the Real Red Reaction Show.
Well, if Nebraska's played in Arizona,
yes, we're even going to be able to buy a cold 12-pack, not one of those warm deals.
They're 2 wins away. They got 2 possible wins in front of them. We'll see if Nebraska get to 6. If they're playing in Arizona, Schmitty, we're doing pregame and postgame from Whiskey Row down in Phoenix. That's the spot to hit for all the Husker fans.
We'll do postgame there. We'll do pregame. We'll do shows. We'll do as many shows as you want. I have not told her yet.
We're way ahead of ourselves, but
no, I'm just saying we'll do it from Casa de Joe Mama on the golf course on the 16th green. We'll avoid tee shots from Junior and
we'll avoid tee shots from Arizona Husker here too.
Yeah, that'd be good. he's got it going, but no, you can absolutely critique and pull your hair out with the inconsistency of the offense, but they made some plays when they had to. And the rest of this season, fellas, is going to be 17-10, 20-17, 13-10, 12-10. That's life in the Big Ten West, and it's all about survival.
Just a couple of thoughts on that. One, Matt Rule answered the question that early on we were getting is, why on earth did we throw the ball on first down? Well, for the only pass, as far as if Harberg hits him, they think it's a touchdown, right? But early on, everybody's going, why are we throwing the ball on first down? Because they had the play set up and they thought if Harberg, delivers the ball where it's supposed to be, he may be gone for 80 yards. So that's the answer to the question. Everybody want to know, Why are we throwing the ball on first down? They had to set it for a play. The other thing is, I think you said it, life in the Big Ten West, life in the Big Ten in general, look at the Ohio State-Penn State game, and that was not it's a brutal, tough, defensive-minded program, and Nebraska is going to have to get better. Harberg, I'm like you. He looked shaky from the start. I don't know what happened to him in the bye week, but he did not look comfortable at all. But he did enough to win, and it's a win, and it's a W, and they didn't say, were their style points. And I think, and I've said it before, I said it earlier, this coaching staff is learning how to win in this environment. And it's not what Satterfield wants to do, and it's maybe not what some of the assistants want to do, but they're figuring out how to win, and it's still a work in progress. And as Schmitty said, a lot of injuries along the line, a lot of freshmen having to stick up. You had a decimated receiver core. You got people playing that you didn't think were going to play. And it's a credit to the coaching staff that they've come along where you can put them in the game and play. But I think the coaching staff, and Matt Rule alluded to this week, they're still learning how to coach this team and figure out what they can do to win. And I think it's going to be like that the rest of the year.
And I just wish they would have learned a little bit more about their offensive identity and how they want to win during the bye week. But I guess Matt Rule kind of said it. They're not a defense-first team, but they're a defensive football team. It's not one side of the ball or the other first, but I think we all know what he means when he says that. If they want to win football games, it has to be on the backs of their defense. They got that today. I wished, looking back at this game, that Nebraska would have been able to find more of an offensive identity during the bye week. It looked like more of the same today, and maybe you just have to take your cap off and tip it in the direction of the Northwestern Wildcats. But I think Nebraska's offense is what it is at this point, and they're going to have to find ways to win football games like Iowa does, through defense, through special teams, and through punt returns that don't count. Shout out to the Iowa Hawkeyes.
Guys, Nebraska loses this football game, and Rule was right early in the year. But in years past, they lose this football game. If you start out with pick, punt, pick, I mean, we're talking 44, 47, and Nebraska's own 13-yard line, and they still held them to 3.
Right,
I mean, Nebraska's dead and buried after one quarter if they start any ball game like that in the past 7 years. They found a way to come back, tie it up, get a lead, especially the last 4 minutes of that second quarter. They go in, 10 plays, 80 yards. They just got to get Harberg to settle down, make some plays in the passing game. Because, listen, I know he was 8 of 17. The deep shot to Malachi was great. The pass to Washington at his own goal line 2 weeks ago was a monster play. So he's got the ability. Now it comes down to consistency. And I don't know if it was Northwestern throwing something at him or what that he wasn't ready for, or if he was just worried about screwing up. I don't know. But I need more run game, and I need more play action. If you're going to throw the football with him, get him on the move and do something off play action. He's got to hit some of those plays. We're not, none of us are bitching about 17-9 if he's hitting some of those plays, because you get some more points presumably because of a big play in a drive, and he's got to make some of those. And I don't know how you guys felt, but were you wondering if Sims may be coming out of the bullpen, especially
I was gonna bring up that question. Okay, if they're sticking with Heinrich Harberg and he committed some early turnovers, were they going to put in Jeff Sims? I mean, we keep hearing he's getting better. He's close to or at 100%. We haven't seen him since Colorado. So that's my question too. Is Jeff Sims going to be kind of in the background now for the duration until something happens with Harberg?
Well, Harberg is the starter here, according to Matt Rule. And I think if Jeff Sims made it through the first 2 games without ever seeing the bench, aside from injury at the end of the Colorado game, I don't think Heinrich Harberg was going to get pulled in this one, especially whenever Nebraska was able to tie it up at 3 and then go take the lead before halftime. I don't think Heinrich Harberg was ever going to get pulled while Nebraska had the lead. So I don't think today was the day that it was going to happen. But Guys, we have about 20 minutes left here in the show, and I'd love to hit on this, but I think maybe we can hit it a little bit more after the break. Heinrich Harberg and his performance, because it started to smell weirdly of propane in the studio, so I might need to go investigate that during the commercial break.
Seriously.
A little bit.
That's not good.
No. We'll take a timeout. Make sure there's nothing flammable, and we'll keep rolling. All right?
I'm going to go investigate.
That means it could be you, your football buddy, your football buddy, or you, your best man, your worst man, you, your dog walker, your cat jogger. While 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes, with early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org. That's doihaveprediabetes.org.
Wait, did they just say 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes? That's 33.33333% of adults. That means it could be me, my boss, or my boss's boss, or me, my favorite sister, or my other sister. That's 7 members of my 21-person romantic book club. Wait, the 1 in 3 could be me, my karaoke partner Carol, or my karaoke enemy Jeff. I'm going to take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
Hello, I'm Jose Hernandez, and I have been using a wheelchair since my accident in 1995.
My name is Andrea Delzell, and I've been using a wheelchair since I was 5 years old.
I guess if I had one message for the general public, it would be that I appreciate your help. But please, ask first.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that I've actually got everything under control.
I think people get nervous. They don't know how to act, so they pretend I'm not there.
What probably bothers me the most is when waiters talk to my companion and not directly to me.
I think everyone with a disability can relate to that parking spot problem.
We know you're just parking in a disabled spot for a second, but please, don't. We're just looking for the same respect and consideration as everyone else.
The United Spinal Association is dedicated to enhancing the quality of life of people living with spinal cord injuries and disorders. Download our disability etiquette booklet at unitedspinal.org.
When I grow up, I want to be a doctor because that's a really important job. I would hope kids get better and make everything super fun. I'd have a cool waiting room with games, toys, and a huge TV.
If your child is sick over and over again, it could be PI, a serious defect of the immune system. Early testing gives children a chance to dream.
And I'll give every kid a cherry lollipop because that's the best flavor.
Jeffrey Modell Foundation, helping children reach for their dreams. Visit info4pi.org.
Coming up on a Monday on the Morning Hookup from 10 to 11, we'll look back Nebraska-Northwestern.
We'll have Evan playing with the Omaha World Herald on the show.
NFL picks, college picks, and Major League Baseball. That and a whole lot more in the Morning Hookup from 10 to 11 right here.
Anything goes. Anything can be said. The Real Red Reaction Show is live now on KFOR.
It is the Real Red Reaction Show here on KFOR, FM 101.5, 1240 AM, KFORnow.com, on our social media links on Facebook and Twitter, also through YouTube. Jeff Moats, Elijah Herbal, Chris Schmidt, Tim Bob Kitzmiller with you here for about another 12 minutes until about 7:15, or at least a little bit before 7:15. If you still want to chime in and talk about the game today with, of course, Nebraska beating Northwestern 17-9, 402-489-1240, the number to call, or outside of Lincoln, 800-825-5865. I guess one other thing I'll bring up, fellas, here really quick before we talk more about Heinrich Harberg. I thought Emmett Johnson ran the ball well today every time they used the ground attack. I thought he did a great job shifting through, especially when there were open creases through that line and in between the tackles. And I thought he really stood out today. If it wasn't for him, I don't think Nebraska probably would have been able to advance the ball downfield like they did a few times early on. But I thought Emmett Brown played really well today in that running back position.
Fleets had a couple of good runs, too, that were pretty exciting in that running game. So there's some flashes in that running back room that are really going to be good. I agree with you, Mozi. Emmett Johnson and Fleets both had some big runs.
Guys, it's going to come down to more and more reps, more and more comfort with Harberg, right? I mean, this is start number 5. Yeah. There's been enough film on him to take away some things that he's comfortable with. You know, he loves locking on Fedoni. He just needs to, for lack of a better term,
the dang ball. Ask the proud of Fairbury next to you about pitch the ball on the option.
Well, I don't think there's a lot of trust. Like, hey, take care of the ball, right? So how do you do that? Well, you keep it in my hands is probably his thought bubble. But there are some guys that are open initially that he's just not pulling the trigger on. He'll roll and run around and then go Brett Favre and throw across his body. And a couple of times there were some big completions, but for the most part, that's waiting to be picked off. He's just very green right now as a thrower. That's an obvious take, an understatement. But if you're gonna keep passing the ball, he's got to make the completions, or you eventually got to go into somebody that can make the completion. But the answer isn't to pull him for poor play. You give him a bit of a leash because right now his confidence is still trying to build. You've seen enough of Sims right now to say, okay, is he going to make the situation better by coming in? Maybe he's ready to rock, but his history says, all right, there's a chance there's a turnover waiting to happen anyway. So you just keep living with Harberg right now. He's able to finish things off physically with the run game. Probably a little bit more of a physical runner than Sims. And you keep Emmett going. You make sure Grant is trustworthy enough, and you didn't see him at all in the fourth quarter. And Fleeks gives you a nice little scat back option, so you're going to have to keep running it. The total offensive numbers below 300. Northwestern, I'll tell you what, they tackled really, really well. Number 0, their big old safety, came down and laid the wood a few times. Gallagher's a talented linebacker as well. And, Northwestern, they'll beat a couple more teams, to be quite honest with you, or at least have the chance to do it as this season goes forward if you take them too lightly. I mean, it is buyer beware each week in the Big Ten West, because anyone can beat anyone right now. And you just got to go into the week hoping you have enough depth, hoping you have enough points on offense, and you get great play out of your defense. And above all, take care of the football. Whoever takes care of the football is going to be able to go get killed by Michigan in Indianapolis.
Well, here's the thing. You look at the Big Ten West right now. Wisconsin, they're at 3-1 at the top of the division, but they have Ohio State next week. So dare I say, likely they'll be 3-2 following next week. Iowa's on a bye. Yeah. They're already at 3-2. You have Minnesota, who's at 2-2. They take on Michigan State. They can win that. They're at 3-2. Nebraska has Purdue next week at home. If they can take care of business against Purdue, they're at 3-2 on the year. So the Wild West is continuing to do Big Ten West things, and it's absolutely wide open. We talked about it entering the bye. We talked about it coming out of the bye, and we're going to talk about it again today. Nebraska controls its own destiny in the Big Ten West, and that's about all you can ask for in late October with how wild the Big Ten West is year in, year out.
Which brings me to this. Which brings me to this. As we look ahead to Purdue next week, based on what we saw today, I think we've pointed out a few inaccuracies, other mistakes. What else does Nebraska have to do before next Saturday afternoon to try to get that third win in conference play and go to 5-3?
They have to have a turnover-free football game Saturday. They've got to force a couple of turnovers, and they got to return the favor. Right, Rule talked about it. He'd fall over, man, if he started out a drive on the opponent 35. Let him do it. Give him a chance to do it. They got to start taking the football away. Now, their third down defense, they didn't give up many, just 4 of 15 on third down, but 3 of those were 10 or more yards. Nebraska, it's like I'm watching the 87 Fiesta Bowl all over again. 3rd and 15, first down, Florida State, right? They complete the pass for 17 yards. But no, Nebraska, what they end up with, Elijah? 8 sacks? I mean, they had a
bowl 8 sacks.
8 sacks. Penn State
tackles for loss, though.
45 hurries when Penn State played Northwestern. I don't know that Nebraska had 45 hurries, but 8 sacks were critical, and there was no shot of Northwestern. They may get a drive or two going with a couple of first downs, but once they got to the 30 or even, dare I say, close to the 40, Nebraska's defense pinned their ears back with a slew of guys and made it really difficult to get across midfield, aside from that 66-yard play and the other drive they had for the field goal where they had a 40-yard run that Rule talked about, that pin and pull play that Northwestern got designed. But this defense, man, is going to give you a shot. The only thing that they haven't done is serve up the football on a silver platter consistently in opponent territory because of a turnover. That has to happen next Saturday for Nebraska to at least get, dare I say, easy points in a tight ball game. You need that. The pass rush has got to stick with what it's been doing and just take care of the ball. You went -1 in the turnover, really -2 in the turnovers today, and better teams will bury you when you give them a shot.
Well, obviously they've got to, piece together what this offensive line is going to look like. I mean, you got injuries, and even though people came back in, that was a physical game, and you can bet Purdue's defense is going to be physical. So you got to, figure out what you're going to do. And again, Harberg's got to settle down, and I think he's got to turn it loose. I mean, you think about what he talked about. Matt Rule talked about playing unleashed on defense. Well, Harberg's going to have to play a little more free. And again, I'm not in the press box, but you can see those, I'm sure those openings that he's missing, and the coaching staff can see it. So somehow he's got to find some confidence to say, I just got to go play, right? And because right now he looked really scared, off, tentative, in a way that surprised me because he hadn't played that way. And coming out of the bye, maybe just thinking too much, whatever. But he's got to turn it loose and go play and trust that his athleticism and the decisions and what he sees are there and not try to force everything to the tight end. I mean, he's got a favorite target, like you said. Everybody's got tape now, right? Get your hands up on defense. You can knock some balls down. Watch the tight end, take away that, make him throw the ball deep because they don't have a deep threat now. The pass to Malachi Coleman may change that, but, you're going to have to figure some things out that he can do well and that the offensive line can execute and that you trust the running backs to do and piece together another offensive game plan that maybe looks different against Purdue. Hopefully it looks better than it did today.
A little bit of rust going on, too, with the bye week as volleyball underway, and this is just an epic start. Tied at 1 right now, and Wisconsin is good as advertised. Nebraska not backing down either. And we got a whole bar room full here at the Single Barrel between bites of steak cheering. So,
well, guys, is that a good place to end the show then as the Husker Volleyball gets started? I see some people leaving our stream as well, so maybe we'll send everyone over and watch some Husker Volleyball. That's what I'll be doing the rest of the night.
Fellas, appreciate you letting me jump in. Thanks again.
Thanks,
See you
guys.
Monday. All right, that'll do it for the Real Red Reaction Show here on KFOR, FM 101.5, 1240 AM. Back here about this same time, around 5:45, 6 o'clock next Saturday, following Nebraska and Purdue, right here on KFOR, also online at KFORnow.com and our social media pages. So for Chris Schmidt, for Tim Bob Kitzmiller, for Elijah Herbal, I'm Jeff Moats. Thank you so much for listening in and watching. We'll talk to you again soon. Have yourself a good weekend. And we'll talk to you again next week with the Real Red Reaction Show here on KFOR.
Thank you, guys.